Over 1 billion people, one-sixth of the world's population, live in a country one-third the size of the United States. They speak more than 1,000 languages and dialects and support more than 20 political parties in the world's biggest and perhaps boldest experiment in democracy. On Thursday evening, February 7th, 2008, we leave New York. Early Saturday morning, we arrive in India's largest city and one of the largest in the world, Bombay, officially known as Mumbai, the country's seaside financial capital and trend-setting east-west nexus. Bombay, perched on the Arabian Sea, covering an island separated from the rest of India by a winding creek, a world unto itself. Bombay can be considered so different from the rest of India that it could be another country. Its culture is contemporary, vibrant, and often aggressive, reflecting both the affluence and poverty of more than 18 million people crowded onto this island. The country views Bombay as the city of opportunity. Gateway of India. This elegant 85-foot stone archway is the city's signature landmark. The Taj Mahal Hotel looks past the Gateway of India to the Arabian Sea. This Victorian extravaganza was built in 1903. At the Gateway of India, we board a boat to Elephanta Island to view the Elephanta Caves. These caves are included in the list of World Heritage Sites. Before you reach the caves, there is a long walk and many steps to climb. Much of the route is lined with gift stalls. You even get to meet the locals. If you are bringing food or snacks, be prepared to share it. The City of Caves contains a treasured collection of rock art and a temple to the cult of Shiva, dating back to the 7th century. The three faces on the image of Shiva represents three aspects of Shiva: the creator on the right, the preserver in the center, and the destroyer on the left. Shortly before these temples were created, Bombay experienced the golden age, when the talents of artists had free range. After viewing the caves, we start our journey down the mountain to reboard our boat. We then cruise 9 nautical miles back to the Gateway of India in the city of Bombay. Sunday evening, Chowpatty Beach on Marine Drive transforms into a magical fairground. Hand-operated rides are packed with children. Stalls distribute Bombay's famously satisfying foods. Marine Drive runs along the shoreline of the Arabian Sea, popularly known as the Queen's Necklace. This curved promenade is literally like one, with its dazzling band of streetlights. Nearman Point is very scenic in many ways. It is where Marine Drive begins. It is also a very upscale business and hotel center. This area is not only very different from the rest of Bombay, but from the rest of India. Major bank and airline headquarters are clustered in skyscrapers on Nearman Point. We now drive to Malabar Hill. The Bagangar Temple complex in the Malabar Hill area are built around a holy pool. The small, dilapidated temples are not only the oldest surviving structures in Bombay, but also considered one of the city's holiest sites. Cows and people mingle freely here, as do bathers who come to sample the healing powers of the water. The Jain temple belongs to the prosperous, strictly vegetarian Jain community. Worship at this shrine takes a somewhat different form than the chaos at Hindu temples. It is more introspective and humble in aspect, reflective of the Jain faith. Chowpatty Beach from the Hanging Gardens of Malabar Hill. Menai Bhavan on Malabar Hill was the home of Mahatma Gandhi from 1917 to 1934. Gandhi's simple belongings are displayed in his room. Haji Ali Shrine is set far out on a thin rocky jetty in the Arabian Sea. This strikingly white shrine was built in honor of the Muslim saint who drowned here some 500 years ago on a pilgrimage to Mecca. The shrine can only be approached during low tide. The long walkway is lined with destitute families and beggars ravaged by leprosy. Dhobi Ghat, or washing place, is an outdoor laundry area. The clothes are soaked in soapy water, trashed on a flagging stone, then tossed into huge vats of boiling starch and hung out to dry. When ready, they are ironed and neatly folded. Knesset Eliyahu Synagogue is one of several synagogues in Bombay. It was meticulously constructed in 1884 with magnificent stained glass windows. Victoria Terminus, the pride of Bombay. The city of Bombay has an extensive system of public transportation. On our last day in Bombay, we visit the Old Crawford Market, which is surrounded by other bazaars and markets, where you can find exactly what you don't need. This capital city has been continuously inhabited for over 3,000 years, yet its imposing British architecture was erected less than 100 years ago. On Wednesday, February 13th, we arrive in India's capital city, Delhi. India's government complex, the Imperial City, was built by the British. A few years after completion, the British packed up and went home, and this lavish architectural complex became the grand capital of newly independent India. Rashtrapati Bhavan is the official residence of the President of India. We leave the grounds of the Capitol complex and walk toward the India Gate. India Gate is a war memorial arch built in honor of 90,000 Indian soldiers who lost their lives in World War I. An eternal flame burns below. Mahatma Gandhi lived a life of voluntary poverty, but he did it in some attractive places. It was in this huge colonial estate owned by an Indian industrialist that Gandhi was staying as a guest when he was assassinated on his way to a prayer meeting in the back garden. We follow his last steps. We now leave the estate area. One of 3 World Heritage Sites in Delhi, built in the middle of the 16th century by the widow of a Mughal emperor, Humayun. This tomb launched a new architectural era that reflected its Persian influence, culminating in the Taj Mahal. Purana Quilla, meaning Old Fort, was the scene of a fierce power struggle between Afghan Sher Shah and Humanian. After his defeat, 15 years later, Humanian returned and seized control. The following year, Humanian slipped and fell to his death. We tuk-tuk to Connaught Place for the evening. Connaught Place is a popular area for tourists visiting Delhi. Today we visit Old Delhi, the Red Fort, L'Aquila. It was here that the national flag was hoisted for the first time when India gained her independence on August 15th, 1947. Named for its red sandstone walls, the Red Fort in Old Delhi is the greatest of Delhi's Mughal palace cities. Built by Shah Jahan in the 17th century, L'Aquila recalls the era of Mughal power and magnificence. At its peak, the fort housed about 3,000 people. After the Indian Mutiny of 1857, the British moved into the fort, built barracks, and ended the Grand Mughal era. L'Aquila, a World Heritage Monument. Before touring Old Delhi, you must prepare yourself. The city lies in a perpetual state of decay. It's crowded and hectic, and the roads and footways are poorly maintained. Old Delhi's maze of narrow streets and crowded bazaars has evolved for more than 3,000 years, while modern New Delhi was designed by the British Raj less than a century ago. In the heart of Old Delhi, Jama Masjid, India's largest mosque, was the last monument commissioned by Shah Jahan, who also built the Taj Mahal. After 6 years of work by 5,000 laborers, it was completed in 1656. We climb to the top of the south minaret. We view the domes up close, the courtyards, the Red Fort in the distance, and the commercial streets around it. The beauty of the architecture is best appreciated from above. We then leave the grounds of Jama Masjid. The facade of the National Museum's grand building imitates the presidential palace. A dome is supported by classical columns on a red sandstone base. The museum covers more than 5,000 years of India's cultural heritage. Qutb Minar is the tallest tower in India. This 230-foot high tower with 376 steps was named for the Muslim Sultan Qutb ud-Din Aibak. Construction began in 1193. The tower is a sandstone example of Indo-Islamic architecture. At its foot lies the Quwwat-ul-Islam Masjid, the first Muslim mosque in India. The mosque is also famous for a 24-foot high 5th century iron pillar. According to legend, if you can stand with your back to the pillar and can reach around and touch your fingers, any wish you make will come true. Unfortunately, it's now fenced off. Qutb Minar, along with the Humayun Tomb and the Red Fort, are the three World Heritage Monuments in Delhi. Baha'i House of Worship. The lotus flower is a symbol of purity throughout India, and Delhi's Baha'i Temple celebrates this in a unique architectural way. Completed in 1986, the building incorporates the number 9, the highest digit, and in the Baha'i faith a symbol of unity. The sleek structure has 2 layers, 9 white marble-covered petals that point to heaven, and 9 petals that conceal them. The 9 pools outside signify the green leaves of the lotus and cool the starkly white marble interior. In Bombay, we visited Manai Bhavan, the home of Mahatma Gandhi. In Delhi, we viewed the place he was assassinated. Now we visit Rajghat, the site of his cremation, a national shrine. Indian tourists and pilgrims stream across the peaceful lawn to pay their respects to the saint-like father of India.
Hope you enjoy and stay in India. Hope.
With its beautiful forts and palaces, the city of Jaipur offers a royal experience. The Amber Fort, the city's biggest attraction, is majestically located up on a hill. In case you have not realized by now, an elephant takes you up. Maharaj Man Singh began building this fort palace in 1592. Construction lasted for over a period of 125 years. For centuries, the fortress was used as a capital, but when the capital shifted into the city of Jaipur in the early 18th century, the site was abandoned. Although much of the fort was left in ruins, the interior palaces, gardens, and temples retain much of their pristine beauty. Both the art and the architecture combine Rajput and Mughal influence in interesting ways. Some areas contain alabaster panels with fine inlaid work, the kind of craftsmanship typical of the Mughal period. The rooms are small and intimate, whereas the palace's successive courtyards and narrow passages are characteristically Rajput. After our stay, we are transported down from this hilltop fortress. We view the Jai Mahal Palace in Man Sagar Lake. Just in case you are not palaced out by now, we visit the Jaipur City Palace, which is located in the center of the city. This complex of pavilions, courtyards, chambers, and palace was begun by Jai Singh II in 1727, with additions completed by later Maharajas. The seven-story Chandra Mahal, or Moon Palace, is still the official residence of the present Maharaja. The city of Jaipur is the capital of Rajasthan. Jaipur came to be known as the Pink City when it was decorated to welcome Britain's Prince Alfred in 1853, a tradition that has continued to this day. By law, buildings in the old city must still be painted pink. Hawa Mahal, or Palace of Winds, is the city's most famous building. On our way back to Agra, we visit the deserted city of Firpur Sikri, built by visionary Emperor Akbar. After his prayers for the birth of a son were answered, pilgrims still visit by the thousands to pray for a son. This was the capital city of the Mughal Empire between 1571 until 1585. Akbar ruled here for only 14 years before moving his capital, perhaps for the lack of enough water, but more likely for political reasons, to Lahore, and then eventually back to Agra. Firpur Sikri now stands as an intriguing ghost town, reflecting a high point in India's cultural history. Jama Masjid, the imperial mosque of the city, designed to hold 10,000 worshippers, is still in active use. One of the seven wonders of the modern world, the most recognized building in the world, the Taj Mahal is pure beauty, not just in design and technique, but also in desire and intent. Built as a monument to love, it was commissioned by Emperor Shah Jahan in memory of his wife, Mumtaz Mahal. Her passing left the emperor so heartbroken that he vowed to honor her with a memorial of unmatched beauty and appointed the world's best craftsmen and 20,000 workers to build this legendary mausoleum. The result stands before you. Shah Jahan changed the function of Agra Fort from a military fortification to a royal palace. He spent the last 7 years of his life imprisoned by his son for massive overspending in the octagonal tower, but still able to look out on his greatest monument, the Taj Mahal. Early this morning, we board a train at Agra Station, which can be an experience in itself. We travel both by train and motor coach to the town of Orcha. We come to Orcha to visit, you guessed it, more temples and palaces. In Orcha, the situation is unique. The temples seem to be situated around the vibrant plaza, which is also the center of town. Here, peddlers will try to sell you almost anything, especially when they see you are a tourist. If you are interested, bargaining is a must. Orcha's picturesque palaces set along the Betwa River have captured the hearts of countless artists and photographers through the decades. India is a land of forts and palaces. Although such imposing structures are constant reminders of past conflicts, they are also magnificent pieces of military engineering and architectural masterpieces. Late this afternoon, we motor coach to Khajuraho. Khajuraho is such a remote village in the center of India that it's hard to imagine it as the 10th to 12th century religious capital of the Chandelas, one of the most powerful Rajput dynasties of central India. We first view the western group of temples during the Chandelas' rule. During the Chandelas' rule, the temple's royal patrons were rich, the land was fertile, and everyone lived the good life. This abundance was the perfect climate for creativity, and temple building emerged as a major form of expression. There were no strict boundaries between the sacred and the profane. Khajuraho represents the best of Hindu temple sculpture, human and divine, pulsating with life, tension, and conflict. The dynasty reigned for 5 centuries, eventually falling to invaders. The temples have been designated a World Heritage Site. Scattered around the edges of the old village of Khajuraho are the eastern group of temples, most of which are Jain temples, whose proximity attests to the religious tolerance of the times in general and the Chandela rulers in particular. Our visit to this small town in central India gave us a glimpse of a time when Hindu art and devotion reached its apex. We leave Khajuraho and fly to Varanasi. Varanasi, in Uttar Pradesh, has been the religious capital of Hinduism through all recorded time. It also is the oldest continuously inhabited city on earth. Every devout Hindu wants to visit Varanasi to purify body and soul in the Ganges, to shed all sin, and if possible to die here in old age and achieve release from the cycle of rebirth, descending from the Himalayas on its long course to the Bay of Bengal. The Ganges is believed by Hindus to hold the power of salvation in each drop. Pilgrims seek that salvation along the length of the river, but the holiest site is Varanasi. Every year, the city welcomes millions of pilgrims for whom these waters, fouled by the pollution of humans both living and dead, remain pristine enough to cleanse the soul. The Ganges is the heart of the Hindu faith and the soul of the Indian nation. Its banks and waters are host to the most intimate rituals of life and death. At sunrise, a solemn group of people lit by the sun's darkly golden first rays hover on the water's edge, bent on immersion in the holy stream. Floating offerings of flowers and candles are sold in Varanasi to light the way for pious rituals. but locals also use the river in ordinary ways, doing laundry or washing hair. Devout Hindus are reluctant to believe that a river as holy as the Ganges is polluted. Some environmentalists now use softer language to suggest that Mother Ganges is suffering. Varanasi is the last place we visit in India. This city, like the rest of India, is truly unforgettable. The world watched its only Hindu kingdom turn its back on its autocratic king and turn itself into a secular state, ending powers enjoyed by the kings for over 230 years. April 2006, the country becomes a democracy. Today, Thursday, February 28th, we arrive in Kathmandu, Nepal. We first venture into rural Nepal. Buddhanath is an important Buddhist pilgrimage center and home to the world's largest Buddhist stupa. This stupa was probably built in the 14th century. A brick wall around the stupa has 147 niches, each with 4 or 5 prayer wheels bearing the mantra. It's a holy place that's brought alive by the Tibetan pilgrims who circle the stupa, twirling their prayer wheels, chanting and murmuring prayers. Shops and plazas completely circle the stupa. You are asked to walk around only in a clockwise direction. We visit Pashupantanath, where temples line the riverbanks of the Bagmati. The Bagmati is a holy river, and like Varanasi on the Ganges, Pashupantanath is a popular place to be cremated. It's a powerful place to contemplate notions of death and mortality. Nagarkot is the village to visit for a spectacular view of the Himalayas. We enjoy lunch with a great mountain view. Nepal is famous for 8 of the highest peaks in the world, including Mount Everest. The 14th century city of Bhaktapur's historic roots lie in its position on the early trade route to Tibet. Today, most of the excitement is on or around the city's Durbar Square. This traffic-free and traditionally intact city is also in many ways the most timeless. The cobblestone streets link a string of temples, courtyards, and monumental squares. The city's cultural life is also vibrant, with centuries-old traditions of craftsmanship and strong communities of potters, woodcarvers, and weavers. Bhaktapur, a modern medieval city. The great Buddhist temple of Swayambhunath on the top of a hill west of Kathmandu is one of the most popular and instantly recognizable symbols of Nepal. The temple is known affectionately as the Monkey Temple for obvious reasons. Legends relate that the Kathmandu Valley was once a lake, and that the hill on which Swayambhunath stands was self-arisen, much like a lotus leaf risen from the muddy waters of the lake. From the hilltop setting, Swayambhunath offers fine views over Kathmandu. Most of the interesting things to see in Kathmandu are clustered in the old part of the city, focused around the majestic Durbar Square and its surrounding back streets. The city's Durbar Square was where the city's kings were once crowned and legitimatized. and from where they ruled. Durbar means palace. As such, the square remains the traditional heart of the old city and Kathmandu's most spectacular legacy of traditional architecture. Nepal is the poorest country in the world. Serious political problems still remain. After a few days, we leave Nepal, but we will never forget what we have experienced here. After our visit to Nepal, we return to Delhi, India. We will spend the next few days in Delhi. Over the past month, we have visited Bombay, a major metropolis and the financial capital of India. We flew to Delhi, the capital of India. We climbed the back of an elephant for a royal experience in Jaipur. We visited the deserted city of Fatehpur Sikri. The sight of the Taj Mahal in Agra was breathtaking. Then we experienced the Indian railway system on our way to the medieval city of Orcha and the marvelous carved temples at Khajuraho. We flew to Varanasi to watch the crowds of Hindu pilgrims lining the Ghats, performing their sacred rituals as the sun rises above the Ganges River. After completing our tour of India, we flew to the Central Asian country of Nepal and enjoyed its rich cultural heritage. Our visit to Asia's timeless subcontinent, India and Nepal, was nothing short of incredible. We have always imagined it, now we have lived it. On Wednesday, March 5th, 2008, we leave India.